The Man on the Side of the Road. A terrifying driving horror story. I've been a truck driver for 12 years now. In that time, I've seen things on the road that I still don't have an explanation for. People walking alone in the middle of nowhere. Abandoned cars, doors hanging open like their owners just vanished. Strange lights in the sky that disappear the second you look straight at them. I've chalked most of it up to exhaustion, highway illusions, tricks of the mind. But this was different. And to this day, I still don't know what I saw. It happened last winter, on a long, isolated stretch of Route 23 in Montana. If you've never driven it, it's one of those highways that makes you feel like you're the last person left on Earth. No streetlights, no houses. Just miles and miles of empty land and dark trees, with the occasional gas station that looks like it hasn't been open since the 80s. I was hauling a freight load to North Dakota. The roads were icy, the wind sharp enough to rattle my mirrors, and the night was the kind that made everything feel still. Dead. I was about 3 hours into the drive when I saw him. A man standing on the side of the road, alone. At first I thought maybe he was a hitchhiker, not unusual. People get stranded, break down, run out of gas. But as I got closer, something about him felt wrong. He was too still. Most people shuffle, glance around, maybe check their phones, but this guy? He just stood there, arms at his sides, staring directly at my truck. And the weirdest part? He was wearing a suit, a full black suit, no coat, no gloves, no hat. Just standing in the freezing cold like the weather didn't bother him. I slowed down slightly as my headlights swept over him. And that's when I saw his face, and I swear to God, he had no eyes. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my breath catching in my throat. He had no eyes, not like they were closed, not like they were hidden behind sunglasses or lost in shadows. There was nothing there, just smooth, pale skin stretched over the empty sockets. My stomach twisted, my pulse hammered against my ribs. I had to be seeing things. The headlights flickered slightly as I sped past him. For a split second, my brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe I was overtired. Maybe the frost on my windshield was warping the light. I told myself not to look. Don't look. Just keep driving. But my instincts had already betrayed me. My eyes darted to the side mirror. He was gone. The spot where he had been standing was now an empty stretch of icy pavement. No footprints. No sign that anyone had been there at all. The road behind me was dead silent. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Montana winter. I exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I forced my eyes back to the road, turning up the heat, trying to shake the growing unease curling in my chest. You're exhausted. That's all this is. Just a trick of the light. I swallowed hard, pushing my foot a little heavier onto the gas. The radio crackled suddenly, static. Just for a second, then silence again. I adjusted the dial, trying to find a station, something to fill the space, anything to drown out the uneasy thoughts clawing at the back of my mind. I found one, an old country song humming softly through the speakers. The familiar twang of a guitar settled my nerves, made the truck feel normal again. Just keep driving. You'll forget about it by morning. At least that's what I told myself. I was wrong, because 3 hours later, when I was over 100 miles away, I saw him again. The truck rumbled down the endless highway, the yellow lines blurring beneath the glow of my headlights. I had been driving for hours. I should have been far away from whatever I saw back there. But as my high beams cut through the dark, my heart stopped. Because standing on the side of the road just ahead was him. Same black suit, same stiff posture, same smooth, eyeless face. I slammed my foot onto the brake. The tires screeched against the icy pavement, the truck skidding slightly before coming to a lurching stop. My hands shook on the wheel, my pulse pounded in my ears. Number. That's not possible. I had been driving non-stop. No turns, no side roads, no other cars. And yet, he was here, waiting. The radio crackled again. I flinched. The country song I had been listening to warped, slowing unnaturally like a record being dragged beneath a heavy hand. Then, a voice, low, distant, "Pull over." I froze. The voice wasn't from the radio, it was from inside the cab. My blood turned to ice. A sharp thud against my passenger side door made me jump. My breath hitched. Something was outside the truck. I didn't check the mirrors. I didn't hesitate. I slammed my foot onto the gas. The truck lurched forward. My heart pounded as I flew past the man in the suit. His head turned as I passed, his face following me. Then, bam! A violent impact slammed into the truck's side. The entire vehicle shuddered, the wheel jerking beneath my hands. It felt like something had jumped onto the truck, something heavy. I gritted my teeth, forcing the wheel straight. I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to let this thing, whatever it was, win. But as I sped down the road fighting for control, I heard it. The faintest sound, a rustling, a creak of metal, a shift in weight. Something was moving on the roof of my cab. I swallowed the panic rising in my throat, pressing harder on the gas. Keep going. Just keep going. But then, the whisper came again. This time, right next to my ear. Let me in. I felt it. Something was crawling across the roof of my cab. The weight shifted. Slow, deliberate movements like a predator circling above. The faint creak of metal under unseen footsteps made my skin crawl. I kept my hands locked on the wheel, my knuckles white. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew something was up there. And then, a sound. Software fingernails dragging across the roof. Scry-up. A slow, deliberate motion, like it wanted me to know it was there. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the overwhelming urge to check my mirrors. Don't look. Don't acknowledge it. The radio warped again. Static swallowed the music, distorting it into something inhuman. The signal flickered in and out, the words stretching into unnatural, garbled whispers. Then, through the broken transmission, a voice. "You saw me." I flinched. The temperature inside the cab dropped. My breath fogged out in the dim light. The scratching stopped. Silence. A single moment stretched into eternity. Then, a loud thump. The entire truck shook. Something had dropped onto the windshield. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see it. But I couldn't stop myself. My eyes flicked upward. And there he was. The man in the suit. His body was unnaturally twisted, his head tilted at an impossible angle, pressed against the windshield, like he had fallen from the sky. His hands were flat against the glass, fingers twitching slightly. His lips were curled into a grin, and his eyes were still gone. Just hollow, black holes. But somehow, I knew he could still see me. My foot slammed the gas. The truck roared forward, tires screeching against the frozen road. The wind howled, ripping against the windshield. The man's body should have been thrown off, but he didn't move. He just stayed there, grinning, watching. Then, he opened his mouth. And I heard it. Not a voice, not a whisper. Something else. Something that didn't belong in this world. A deep, hollow, gurgling sound, like 1,000 voices trying to speak at once. My vision blurred. The truck swerved. The radio exploded into screeching static. Then, darkness. Darkness swallowed everything. For a moment I felt weightless, adrift in something vast and empty. Then, pain. A sharp, stabbing sensation in my chest as I slammed forward, my seatbelt cutting into me. The truck jerked violently, tires screeching against the pavement. I gasped, my vision blurring as my head snapped back. My ears rang with static, the radio still spitting out broken, warped voices. Then I heard it. A wet, shuddering breath. Inside the cab. My body locked up. My mind screamed at me not to move, but I could feel it. Something was behind me. The air had changed. The temperature had plunged. My breath was visible, curling in the freezing air like smoke, and then a hand settled onto my shoulder. Cold. Thin fingers pressing too hard, digging into my skin. I couldn't breathe. Slowly, so painfully slowly, my eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, and I saw him. Sitting in the passenger seat, the man in the suit, grinning. His face too close, his head tilted in that unnatural broken angle. His hollow eyes stared into mine, empty and endless. Then, his mouth moved. "You should have stopped." A crackling noise filled the cab, a deep rattling, inhuman sound. I lunged forward, fumbling for the door handle, my body desperate to escape. But the handle wouldn't move. The locks clicked shut. The truck sped up on its own. The gas pedal was being pressed down by something that wasn't me. 80 miles per hour. 90. The truck raced down the highway, swerving on the ice, the headlights cutting through the endless black void ahead. The radio howled. More voices, layered, warped, screaming. "You saw me. You should have stopped. You should have picked me up." 100 miles per hour. The world outside the windshield distorted. The trees blurred, twisting into unnatural shapes. The stars above vanished, swallowed by an inky black sky. And then, the road ended. A sheer drop, a pit of nothingness, and I was speeding straight toward it. The man in the suit leaned closer. His lips almost touched my ear, his voice soft, calm, final. "You're almost there." Then, the truck plunged into the darkness. I woke up gasping. Air flooded my lungs, burning as I fought for breath. I was slumped over the wheel. The windshield was cracked, the dashboard flickering weakly. The entire truck shuddered, the engine struggling to stay alive. I was on the highway. But the road was different. The air was thick, the sky was wrong. No stars, no moon. Just an endless, deep red glow stretching across the horizon. And in the distance, a sign. A single metal road sign illuminated by my dying headlights. I didn't want to look. I knew what it would say. But my eyes had already moved to the words. Mile 42. A cold chill crawled up my spine. Number I had driven hundreds of miles. I had escaped. Hadn't I? I swallowed hard, my fingers twitching against the wheel. That's when I saw it. In the rearview mirror. A shape. A figure standing in the road behind me. Waiting. Watching. A man. In a black suit. Grinning. My breath hitched. And slowly, so painfully slowly, he began to walk toward me. The radio crackled. One last whisper curled through the static. Software amused. "Keep driving, Jason." The GPS screen flickered, and for the first time, the numbers started counting up. 43 miles. 44 miles. 45 miles. No stopping. No escaping. No end. I gritted my teeth, hands locking around the wheel. I knew what was waiting for me. And yet, I pressed my foot on the gas, and I kept driving. I didn't want to believe it. The numbers on the GPS kept climbing. 47 miles, 50 miles, 60 miles. Each time I blinked, they increased. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless, bathed in that eerie red glow from the sky above. It wasn't sunlight. It wasn't moonlight. It was something unnatural. I swallowed hard, gripping the wheel so tight my fingers ached. I checked the mirror. He was still there, the man in the suit, walking at a steady pace. His movements were slow, unnatural, but no matter how fast I drove, he was never far behind. I pressed my foot down harder. The truck rumbled beneath me, the speedometer climbing. 80 miles per hour, 90 miles per hour. The trees blurred. The road became a streak of black and red, but then the air around me shifted, like something was pressing in on all sides. The radio crackled again, and a voice, deep, ancient, vibrating through the speakers, spoke just 2 words. Slow down. My blood ran cold. I didn't listen. I kept driving. The whisper grew louder. Slow down. The air tightened around me. The pressure in my ears became unbearable, like I was sinking deep underwater. And then, a figure stepped into the road. Not him, someone else, a woman. Her clothes were torn, her skin pale, her eyes wide with terror. She lifted a shaking hand, begging me to stop. My stomach lurched. I didn't have time to react. I hit her. The impact sent a sickening jolt through the truck. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screaming as I fought to regain control. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The truck shuddered to a stop. Silence. I sat there, hands shaking, my mind scrambling to process what had just happened. Then, a faint tapping on my window. I turned, and my blood turned to ice. It was her, standing outside my truck. Her eyes were hollow, her skin was wrong, stretched too tight, too pale, and her mouth was grinning. She shouldn't be alive. She shouldn't be standing there. But she was. And then, she spoke. Her voice wasn't hers. It was his. "You should have stopped the first time." I slammed the gas. The truck roared forward, tearing down the highway at full speed. The road beneath me twisted, the sky above darkening into something unnatural. The numbers on the GPS spun wildly. The mile markers reversed. Everything around me collapsed into shifting shadows and whispers that weren't my own. I was trapped. I was becoming part of the road. And deep down, I knew the truth. There was no way out. There was only the drive. And the next driver to take my place. The radio hissed, one last whisper curling through the static. "You're almost there." And I kept driving. The truck barreled down the road, the speedometer climbing past 100 miles per hour. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. My fingers locked around the wheel in a death grip. The sky twisted above me, that unnatural red glow pulsing like a dying heartbeat. The road was no longer just pavement, it was alive, shifting beneath my tires like something ancient and hungry. And in the rearview mirror, he was still there, the man in the suit, not running, not struggling, just walking. No matter how fast I went, he was never far behind. I turned my eyes back to the road, forcing myself to focus. The GPS flickered violently, the numbers spinning backward and forward at random. 120 miles, 42 miles, 999 miles, then 0. The moment the number hit 0, the truck screamed. A high-pitched, inhuman wail blasted from the engine, metal twisting like something was tearing the truck apart from the inside. I tried to press the brakes, but they were gone. The pedal was just empty air. The wheel in my hands felt wrong, warmer, softer, like flesh. And then I saw it. The road was ending, just like before. A sheer drop into an endless black void. I had seen this before. I had lived this before. But this time, I knew what was coming. I took a deep breath, and I let go of the wheel. The moment I released the wheel, everything froze. The truck stopped moving. The wind vanished. The hum in my ears went silent. I was suspended in place, caught between two moments. One where I would fall forever, and one where I might escape. And then I heard it. A voice. Not the hitchhikers. Not the radios. Something else. Something old. "You were supposed to take his place." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "You should have stopped." The road stretched endlessly ahead of me now, looping into itself like a Mobius strip, a highway with no end and no beginning. And there, in the distance, I saw another truck, not mine, someone else's. Headlights cutting through the darkness, an engine roaring as it sped toward me. A new driver, a new victim. The road was offering me a choice. I could stay, become part of the highway, or I could let someone else take my place. I looked at my hands. They were changing, my fingers stretching, the skin turning pale, my nails growing long and black. My suit, a suit I had never worn before, was pressed against my body, perfectly clean, perfectly wrong. I was becoming him. The hitchhiker, the man on the side of the road, the thing that waits. The next driver was almost here. His headlights flashed against the pavement. His radio was probably crackling right now. His GPS was probably telling him lies, just like mine had, and soon he would see me, standing there, waiting, and I would smile, just like the road wanted me to. I had seconds to decide, take his place, or let him take mine. The hum in my ears returned, deeper, heavier, pressing against my skull. The radio crackled. The voice came one last time. Make a choice, Jason. The truck ahead was almost here. The driver wouldn't see me until it was too late. I could feel the suit tightening against my body, the final piece falling into place. Make a choice. I clenched my fists, took a deep breath, and the truck's headlights blinded me. The roar of its engine thundered through the air. Time slowed. My mind was racing, every nerve in my body screaming at me to decide, take my place in the endless loop, or break free. The hum in my ears grew deafening. The voice from the radio from the road itself whispered once more. Make a choice, Jason. The driver was almost here. I could already see his face, tired, focused, completely unaware of the nightmare he was speeding into, just like I had been. My feet were frozen to the pavement. My fingers twitched at my sides, my lips pulling into a smile that wasn't mine. I could feel it happening. My body wasn't mine anymore. I was becoming the hitchhiker, and all I had to do was wait. The truck roared past me. Wind slammed against my body, the force nearly knocking me off my feet. I turned sharply, watching as the taillights faded into the endless road ahead. It didn't stop. The driver didn't see me, didn't pick me up. I had broken the pattern. I wasn't the hitchhiker. I was still Jason. I took a shaky breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. My hands were my own again. The suit was gone. My skin was warm, alive, real. The road shuddered beneath my feet. Something was angry. The hum in my ears turned into a shriek, the sky overhead fracturing like glass. I wasn't supposed to escape, but I had. I turned back to the highway looking for a way out, and that's when I saw it. A new sign. Not mile 42, not mile 999, just one word. Exit. A real exit. A way off this cursed road. I didn't hesitate. I ran. The pavement beneath me cracked, splitting apart, trying to pull me back in. But I didn't stop. I ran toward the exit sign, the only real thing in this entire nightmare. The wind howled. The air thickened, trying to press me down. But I pushed forward, step by step. The highway shook violently, the black pavement crumbling into a yawning void behind me. And then, I reached it. The exit. A simple off-ramp leading into a darkened stretch of trees. No road signs, no lights. But it was real, and it was the only way out. I took one last look at the endless highway behind me. I could still see the mile markers counting up, disappearing into the horizon. The road would never end. Not for me, not for the next driver. But I wouldn't be part of it anymore. I took a deep breath, and I stepped off the highway. The moment my foot left the pavement, silence. The hum disappeared. The pressure in my skull vanished. The cold, unnatural air was gone. I turned, and the highway wasn't there anymore. Just an empty stretch of forest, a quiet, moonlit road leading into the distance. The highway that trapped me for so long was gone. I stumbled forward, my body weak, my mind still reeling from what had happened. But I knew one thing for sure. I had escaped. I don't know how long I walked. Hours, maybe. I didn't care. Every step took me further from that cursed road. And then, in the distance, headlights, a real car, a real person. I stepped into the middle of the road, waving my arms, desperate for them to see me. The car slowed, pulled over. A woman rolled down the window, her expression filled with concern. "You okay, man?" she asked. I tried to answer, but my voice caught in my throat. Because in the back seat, Through the dark window, I saw him, the man in the suit, smiling, waiting. My breath hitched. The woman's brow furrowed. "Hey, do you need a ride?" I took a step back. My mind screamed at me to run. I swallowed hard, and I said the only thing that mattered. "Number, keep driving." The woman hesitated, then nodded. She rolled up the window, and her car pulled away. I watched as her taillights disappeared into the night, and I prayed she would never stop for a hitchhiker. Not on that road, not ever.